Welcome to The Explainer, what driving the same car for 10 years says about you. You look at a driveway, you see a brand new SUV, and you just assume, right? You think, wow, they are doing fantastic. Then you look maybe 4 houses down, see a dented, decade-old crossover, and you kind of assume things must be tight for them. We are literally trained to read cars as these rolling status updates. But today, we're going to expose the massive paradox between what we see in the driveway and the actual financial reality under the hood. We're breaking down why your car is actually the most honest indicator of your financial future. And trust me, by the end of this, you are going to look at your neighbor's driveway very differently. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to meet two neighbors living on the exact same street, bringing home the exact same paycheck. First up, we've got Clay. Now, Clay gets himself a brand new Tahoe every 3 years like clockwork. Right now, he's carrying about $8,000 in negative equity and a monthly payment that is, well, gonna outlive his patience for sure. Down the street is Hannah. She drives a 2013 Honda CR-V. It's got a scuffed bumper and a whopping 190,000 miles on the dash. Now here is the absolute reality check. Clay is broke. Hannah, on the other hand, has a 7-figure net worth. The car in your driveway is literally the most visible place on earth where people completely confuse income with true wealth. You see, income is just what shows up. Wealth is what stays. So to really understand how Clay is just bleeding money, we have to look at the brutal front-loaded math of depreciation. The literal second Clay drives his $70,000 Tahoe off the dealership lot, it quietly sets a massive chunk of its own value on fire. No actual flames, obviously, but the money is just gone. It loses roughly 20% of its value in the first year alone, and by year 5, it's down 60%. That means Clay's shiny truck is worth about $28,000 by the time he gets bored of it 3 years later. Guys, that is $42,000 completely evaporated, basically just for the privilege of being the very first person to spill coffee in the cup holder. And this brings us to a really devastating financial trap. It's called renting the curve. See, depreciation is extremely front-loaded. It is absolutely savage early on, and then it kind of flattens out. Years 1 through 5 are undeniably the most expensive, while years 6 through 15, those are the bargain miles. So when Clay trades his car in every 3 years, he isn't really buying cars. No, he is renting the single most expensive stretch of the depreciation curve on a continuous, never-ending loop. He eats the absolute worst financial hit, and then he just hands those cheap, reliable miles over to a total stranger. Now Hannah, she bought the whole curve once back in 2013, and she has been living happily on the cheap end of it ever since. But honestly, depreciation isn't even the part that should really scare you. It's the payment. Get this, the average new car payment in America has hit a staggering $800 a month. $800! And remember, that is just the average. We're not even talking about the fancy luxury tier here. More than 1 in 6 new car buyers are actually shelling out over $1,000 a month. You really have to start viewing this $800 not as a standard everyday expense, but as what it really is, an anti-investment. It is the exact opposite of building wealth. It's quietly draining your future every single month. Now, what's really interesting here is how Hannah understands this anti-investment perfectly. Instead of handing that $800 over to a lender, she invests it. By the time Clay is sitting down signing the endless paperwork for his second Tahoe, Hannah's brokerage account has quietly passed $70,000. And by his 4th Tahoe, she is north of $250,000. Think about that. Clay walks away with what? A slightly newer cup holder, but Hannah walks away with the kind of account balance where she can literally stroll into her boss's office to negotiate and genuinely not be afraid of the answer. And here is the massive financial punchline to this whole cycle, and it is staggering. If Clay runs this 3-year habit across his entire working life, let's say from age 25 to 65, it literally costs him just over $2 million. And honestly, that is using conservative math. If you run those numbers at the stock market's actual historical average, it is closer to $5 million. This completely changes the conversation. The choice was never actually old car versus new car. The choice is new car versus retiring a full decade early. Clay quietly sold his financial future just to pay for a slightly nicer commute. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. I can hear the immediate objection forming in your head right now. But wait, don't old cars constantly break down and cost an absolute fortune to fix, right? It sounds completely reasonable. Actually, it's the exact argument everybody reaches for. But validating that fear is exactly how the system keeps people broke. So let's look at the actual math and completely dismantle this repair myth. Let's walk through this. Clay's $800 a month means he's locked in. He's guaranteed to drain $9,600 from his wealth this year.
period. Now let's say Hannah has an absolute nightmare year with her CRV. Let's say a transmission mount goes out for $1,400, a wheel bearing totally fails, and she gets hit with a brutal, unexpected $3,000 total bill. Well, even in that absolute worst-case nightmare scenario, Hannah is still $6,600 ahead of Clay's predictable, guaranteed drain. And that's a bad year. Most years, she's just spending a couple $100 on oil changes and tires. When you look at the real all-in cost of a vehicle, repairs are consistently the smallest controllable cost. The real killers, depreciation and interest.
And this whole dynamic creates what we call the perpetual payment trap. The entire dealership system is quietly, brilliantly engineered to get you to replace your car, not repair it. I mean, nobody makes a dime when you just keep your old car, right? So here's how it works. Step 1. A buyer walks in on average $7,000 underwater, meaning they owe more on their current loan than the trade-in is even worth. Step 2. The salesman smiles, says no problem, and just rolls that old debt right into a brand new loan. Step 3. They finance the whole thing for an agonizing 84 months. By stretching that loan out, the dealer sells you an attractive monthly number instead of the actual terrifying price. And you end up financing your old mistake wrapped inside a brand new truck that you can't really afford.
So why do people do this? Well, Clay willingly walks right into this trap because of something called hedonic adaptation. This is the psychological reason why you literally cannot buy your way to lasting happiness. You get the new car, you feel this massive, incredible spike of joy, and then your brain just quietly resets it as the new normal. The fancy new truck just becomes your truck. Researchers have actually measured this specifically with vehicles. They found that within about 5 years, roughly a third of that initial happiness boost has completely evaporated. So buyers are just left constantly chasing the next hit, the newer truck, the louder engine, the fancier trim.
Economists call this concept goods after. It's basically using visible spending the exact same way a peacock uses its feathers. Because let's be real, unlike your salary or your 401k balance, everybody sitting in traffic next to you can see your car. It's the purest signal we've got. And that is exactly why a finance Tahoe is, in a very real sense, a costume. It is money Clay does not have, spent to impress people he doesn't even know, all while chasing a feeling that was always, always destined to fade. But Hannah's dented CRV? It's the exact opposite of a costume. It's a tell. It reveals her absolute superpower, which is low time preference. This is the psychological ability to delay gratification. She can sit there with mild discomfort at a red light in her older car simply because she prefers to actually be wealthy later, rather than just look wealthy right now. And get this, the ability to wait is one of the strongest predictors of wealth building that researchers have ever found. Her car isn't the cause of her wealth, it is the ultimate symptom of it. And hey, if you think I'm just romanticizing Hannah here, look at the data on what actual millionaires drive. The top brands, Toyota, Honda, and Ford. Seriously, the list reads like a Costco parking lot on a Saturday afternoon. 60% of high-earning households don't own a single luxury brand car. I mean, Warren Buffett, a guy worth more than the GDP of some small countries, famously drove a hail-damaged Cadillac on purpose, just because he got it at a discount. The truth is, the people who look rich and the people who actually are rich are very, very rarely the same people. So imagine it's a few years down the road. You're 55 years old, and a check engine light suddenly pops on. For Clay, who is still trapped making these massive car payments, that little orange light triggers pure dread. It means lying awake doing quiet math at 2 a.m., agonizing over whether the car payment, the insurance, and this new repair bill can all somehow survive the same month. But for Hannah, it's completely different. Her paid-off CRV throws a code, and it's just a mild annoyance. It's a Saturday trip to the mechanic and a few $100 pulled from a cash fund she set aside exactly for this moment. A new car doesn't buy you peace of mind. A paid-off one does. Now, to be totally fair here, keeping a car forever isn't always the right move. I mean, you shouldn't drive an absolute death trap just to win a financial argument, right? There are 4 legitimate reasons to upgrade. First, safety tech. Things like automatic emergency braking genuinely cut rear-end crashes in half. That's real. Second, the reliability cliff. Look, a 10-year-old Honda workhorse is a very, very different bet than a 10-year-old hyper-complicated European luxury car that's about to turn into a massive money pit. Third, the break-even point. That's when repairs reliably start costing more per year than buying a sensible used car. And fourth, if your actual income depends on it. If you're a contractor or a rideshare driver, reliability isn't vanity, it's literal insurance for your livelihood.
But assuming you don't hit those extremes, the absolutely crucial takeaway from this explainer is this: wealth is not the stuff you can see. Wealth is the money you kept. So if you've ever felt even a little bit self-conscious parking your older, faded car a row away at work, I need you to flip that mindset completely right now. That car is not a sign that you are behind in life. No, it is the single, clearest, ultimate invisible flex that you are miles ahead of the game. Every single month you skip a car payment, you are quietly voting for your future self over a stranger's opinion in traffic.
Which leaves us with one final provocative question. Will you spend the next decade renting dopamine or buying your own freedom? Because you see, the 10-year-old car was never really about the metal in the engine anyway. It was always about who you decide to be. It tells the world that you ran the numbers and you trusted them way more than the marketing. So give yourself permission to do something quietly radical today. Opt out of the monthly payment trap. Keep the car that works, invest the difference, and just let everybody else rent their dopamine 3 years at a time.
If you want to decode more financial traps and learn the math behind building real wealth, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a breakdown.